Hey everybody, welcome back to another reasonable price prediction, the series where we try to figure out where your favorite altcoins could be headed. Today we're looking at Parsiq, and Parsiq was requested down in the comments by AJMC Fatty. So AJMC Fatty, thank you for requesting. I'll always cover videos you guys want, so keep requesting them. I always got a brother. I'm always going to help a brother out. You know what I'm saying? Now, getting straight into it, for those of you that don't know, because I didn't, Parsiq is basically a layer 2 on Ethereum that acts as an oracle. So it basically provides data to the Ethereum environment. This is what I could find anyway. I found it surprisingly difficult to get like a head-on answer as to what Parsiq really did. And to me, honestly, that does worry me a little bit. If they don't have something clear that they say they do without covering it and stuff, and it worries me a small bit, but that doesn't really matter. We're mainly focusing on price, but basically Parsiq provides data and then responds with that data when certain criterias or events take place. And this could be transaction volume, this could be transaction price, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Basically, they provide data to the Ethereum ecosystem, which is cool, and blockchains do need this. But to me, nothing that stood out majorly. There's a lot of oracles in the Ethereum space especially. But that doesn't mean Parsiq can't make a lot of money and can't make a lot of impressive moves on its US dollar pair. And even in the last few days, I was making notes last night on this video, and I didn't have enough time to basically record then, but since then we were below this cup and handle pattern that we see kind of playing out here, and it is a bit rough, but it's something I noticed, and I won't lie and say I didn't find it difficult to draw interesting pieces of data from this chart. I found it, to be honest with you, with the amount of time that we've had and what the price has done, ultimately it's just trended down, and that is because it basically, launched the start of a bull run, had a big bull run move, and then traded down for these last 2-3 years, which isn't uncommon, and that's fine. But anyway, back to the cup and handle. What this basically indicates, and we've seen it in a few altcoins recently, cup and handle, you form some sort of a V shape or a cup-like shape, a U shape, either of these, and then you have a bit of a pullback, which is your handle, and then a move back up to this previous resistance. And again, we've seen Parsiq has done this to a T, and this resistance in question was at 17 cents. And we actually saw that, again, I was saying last night I was making these notes and we were still below the cup and handle pattern. Now we're actually above. So in the last 24 hours, we've had a very impressive move from Parsiq. So if any of you were holding, you're looking at a nice 20%, 18% move, which is definitely good in any way you decide to look at it, you know what I mean? In terms of other things that I found with Parsiq, again, kind of difficult to glean a lot from this chart, especially as we've basically seen Parsiq move in only one direction. We haven't had any variation or trends changing really. And you can argue here now, because a cup and handle pattern, would usually indicate a strong move to the upside. That's what they do usually in the normal market anyway. Now, it doesn't always have to happen, but that is kind of what you expect. If you go Google like Wall Street cheat sheets, cup and handle, it will usually indicate that there'll be a strong move to the upside afterwards. The other thing that I noticed on the US dollar pair is that Parsiq has had increasingly strong moves to the upside since 2022. So back in January, we had this first move of 45%. And then later in that year, around July, we had this strong move of 86%. And this is just the close. I mean, realistically, if you want to take it from up here, you had a crazy strong move of 220%. The next one, we had a 130% move. But again, you could take it from where it actually wicked up to, and that would be, again, a 240% move. Kind of all of these moves ending up in the 200 range. And now we're seeing another move, which, again, closed at a 220% move, but ultimately went up to a 350% move. So either way you decide to look at that, whether you want to take it from bottom to peak or just bottom to the final close, Parsiq is still making strong moves, and each move is increasing in size. And we've seen now finally that we've had this strong move, but we haven't had the strong fade that usually follows it. Because every time Parsiq has had these moves, like here, Parsiq dropped like 90%, I would say, from the high. If we take it, I mean, if you want to take this low, 90%, yeah, so 80% from this low. If you then move to the next one and take where Parsiq went down 70%, so again, another strong move. If you're taking where Parsiq went after this one, 75%, another strong move. But the one time it's changed, which is, again, what's happened most recently, Parsiq had a move of, and I'll be unfair and take it from the wick, I didn't do that for the others, Parsiq has had a move down of 55%, which still sounds strong. If you want to take it from the close, the weekly close, like we did the others, Parsiq has had a move down of 37%, which still sounds bad. 37% is rough, but compared to what we've seen before, this is a very good sign. And the fact that we've again bounced from that and could potentially move even further up, and we have like gone above this 17-cent range that seems to be acting as such an important resistance for Parsiq. The fact that it's now moved above, and even though we haven't had a close above, that'll be what makes or breaks it, in my opinion. If we have a week or two closed above the 17-cent range, I think it'll be very difficult for Parsiq to drop down below. And I've spoken about having these pullbacks that a lot of altcoins could see over the next few weeks. That doesn't mean they can't rally a lot first, get up to a nice price, and then have a pullback to a key area before, but ultimately not go much further down. And while that is a scenario, it is very true that Parsiq could also just get rejected here and have a crash. Again, it's very up in the air, especially when you go down the risk curve as far as like the 500 market cap coins, and Parsiq is something like 446. So its exposure to volatility is way higher than most coins above it, but it's something to just be aware of. That basically, as time has gone on, Parsiq has been making stronger moves up and weaker moves to the downside. And during this time, we have also happened to play into a cup and handle pattern, and cup and handle patterns often play out in a positive way for price action. In terms of where I think Parsiq could go, I mean, it's always a good idea to look at the all-time high to get some sort of a gauge of the potential price movement. And Parsiq was at about $2.50 last cycle. That was April of 2021. For me, again, it's like a lot of altcoins. It's very difficult to say, especially when they've only had one cycle, and especially when they launch into a bull run. This is usually a good thing for the launch, because if you launch into a bull run, you're naturally just gonna go up, basically. But after that, it's very hard to tell whether this price action was caused because you're just in a bull run, or if you actually have something that's useful and people want. And we've seen that Parsiq has broken below this launch price, and it's broken well below this launch price. Parsiq launched at about 12 cents, and we can see Parsiq went as low as 4 cents. So we've had strong moves well below the initial launch price. So it's very hard for me to say where I think Parsiq could go. Again, that's just because of kind of limited data, to be honest with you, and the cloud over what caused such great price movement. Was it just hype around a new coin launching and people hoping to make a lot of money, or was it something that people really needed, really wanted, finally got, and it caused a strong move in price? And then you have to ask yourself, even if it was because it was needed then, is it still needed now? Or are you playing off the fact that you hope people will think they need it, or that you think people will expect it to explode, so you're getting in early now before the degens dump into it in mid-2025? And, it's very hard to say. I mean, realistically, I would be comfortable assuming Parsiq will probably return to $1 territory at least. Now, it might not, but that if I was going to buy this alt, I would probably price in some sort of, a range like this to $1. It's very difficult to put a pin on. And to be honest with you, with these things, it's like you need more data. And you could argue that by letting that happen, you run the risk of missing out on huge gains. But me personally, I'm okay taking that, because when I deal with something like Ethereum, or if I deal with something like Bitcoin, that's had, 8+ years in the space, I kind of know what to expect from them. And I feel much more comfortable putting money into something like that. Again, the biggest thing investors fear is uncertainty. And with altcoins like this, there's a lot of uncertainty. Now, there's no uncertainty over the fact that most likely this crypto will rally in a bull run, but to where and by how much is a complete uncertainty. It's impossible to say. So that's where I would personally price in the coin going. If we move to the Ethereum pair, because I could not find an exchange that offered BTC and Parsiq. The only one that offered any other sort of crypto against Parsiq was Uniswap, and I was surprised how much data they had on this, so it worked fine. Again, kind of difficult to draw anything because Parsiq has basically just traded down its whole time on its Ethereum pair and its US dollar pair. Even the bull run, Parsiq just lost value to Ethereum basically all the way down. One thing I did notice, however, though, was this sort of pattern that Parsiq followed whenever it went down to its lows, and this support that I've drawn in. Whenever Parsiq touched this support, had a strong move up to this blue, so we got orange to blue. We have a bit of a pullback, and then a strong move up again to a purple. And like, you know, you can put this purple up here if you want. It's kind of up to you. I kept them a bit lower down just because it's easier to see, and these wicks were probably only for 10 minutes, so I kind of see them as unrealistic. That's beside the point. We go orange, blue, green, and pink. And looking at this, you might see that, okay, so Parsiq has gone to pink here. It's due for a pullback because Parsiq went for pink here, had a pullback. We're now at pink. Parsiq is expecting a pullback on its Ethereum pair. And I would like to provide a case for this and against this. And the case against it that says Parsiq will gain value on its Ethereum pair is that every single time Parsiq has rallied up here or had its two strong moves to the upside, it's either been the first move or the second move has greatly outperformed the other, and the second or the first move doesn't get anywhere near it. So for example, in this first move, the blue does well for how far it rallied up, but then the pink blows it out of the water, but then comes tumbling back down. So they're not similar levels that they're rallying to. It's not putting in any kind of support. It's just blowing up and then blowing down, you know? And it's the same here. Here's the first strong move is blue. And we've got a strong move, but really we crumble and we have another strong move, but we're not putting in any kind of support. There's no real staying power. You just have one pump followed by a big sell-off followed by a second pump, and this should be a green wick. There's some sort of an error. On the daily it makes sense, but for some reason they have a weekly close here, and then the week open is here, so this should be green. I'm not quite sure what happened, but that candle should be green. But zooming into what we've seen nowadays, or the last few weeks anyway, over the last few months since November Parsiq had a big rally on its Ethereum pair, like it's seen before. Still ultimately trending downward, but it had a big rally, and it puts in its top. That's good, that's fine. Has a little retracement back to below or to the bull market support band. Another thing that sort of showed weakness last time was that we had dips below the bull market support band, where historically our first test we bounced off the bull market support band. Here we bounced off the bull market support band again, which is a strong sign. You want to bounce off it, not crumble below it like we saw last time. And here we've come back to a similar level. So I would argue this is a bullish thing. Parsiq is returning to a level and somewhat stabilizing, maybe. Now, over the next few weeks, that could change and Parsiq could drop like a rock, or it could rally and, you know, leave this level behind. I ultimately don't really know, but that is a case you might want to argue where Parsiq has come back to this level, and it's done so over a longer period of time than it has previously. See, these last few times it's just been wicks up, wicks down. It hasn't had any sort of consolidation in this zone. Here we've finally seen a bit of stabilization, which could result in a more positive movement for Parsiq on its Ethereum pair. And I will remind you that ultimately Ethereum is a lesser performing Bitcoin, or it has been over the last few months. You know, Ethereum has lost value against Bitcoin since 2022. So while this chart looks much poorer or looks poor, the Parsiq Bitcoin charts, if it existed, would look even worse. It would be a much harsher decline than what we're seeing here. Now, the bearish case against Parsiq on its Ethereum pair it basically comes from the assumption that we've seen for the last two halvings, give or take, is that after the Bitcoin halving, Ethereum usually starts to gain value against Bitcoin sometime after or around the halving. Now, historically, Ethereum loses value to Bitcoin up until the halving. And then after that, sort of after the halving, Ethereum takes back value from Bitcoin slowly. And this sort of brings us into more bullish territory and gets us ready for a bull run. If that's the case, you would expect Parsiq to not perform as well. Because what kind of happened the last few times anyways, the big players that were holding lots of BTC, they moved it into ETH around the halving time when Ethereum was at its low on its Bitcoin pair. This forced up the price of Ethereum against Bitcoin naturally, and of course against its US dollar, so Ethereum was dropping less than Bitcoin, even though things were rallying at the time, and also Ethereum was going up more against Bitcoin pair. People see this, starts a chain reaction, people move a bit more into ETH, and ETH has its explosive move. Now, we usually see this earlier in the cycle. We haven't yet with Ethereum and Bitcoin. So there's a lot up in the air about whether that will happen again. I personally think it will. So for me, I think perhaps Parsiq could be an altcoin that rallies with Ethereum and does very well. Ultimately, it will be the tide that raises all boats. But in terms of how Parsiq will do on its Ethereum pair, I think it probably won't outperform it until 2025 in any consistent way. Now, I could be totally wrong with that as well. And what I spoke about before with this sort of consolidation, this could be the first step to Parsiq taking a positive move on its Ethereum pair. It's very hard to tell. And to be honest with you, it's very difficult to glean anything from a chart that has just gone down realistically. But that's my kind of best attempt at it. I know it seems very meager for how long it took, but I've just been busy last few days, so very sorry I couldn't get a video out sooner. Either way, I hope you enjoyed it, or at least you found something useful. Maybe hearing some idiot blabber on about it, you might have noticed something yourself in the charts that was useful and you can use yourself. That's ultimately, if someone gets positive from this or feels more informed, I win. AJMC Fatty, I will probably not look at Muse because Parsiq was sort of the most different out of the two, and it would probably be a very similar video in terms of the points I would make and the things I would see. Maybe another time, if the token develops a bit more in a month or two and we see some sort of a trend reversal, maybe I could make some sort of a better educated guess from that. But until then, I probably won't look at Muse like you asked. But if you really want, I probably could make a video sometime if you're really desperate for it, but I'm sure you're probably not. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. That's totally fine. If you want to sign up with FairDesk with the link in the description, not only do you get a deposit bonus, but they've also reduced their trading fees, and I'm pretty sure they're offering some sort of VIP thing for people who sign up within the next 30 days. I'm also thinking about making a Discord server, so if you guys would be interested in that, comment down below or say something, and I'd love to set it up and be much easier to chat with you guys that way instead of just in the comment sections the whole time. Anyway, I've gone on way too long. Thanks very much, guys. Take care and peace.